Today, we are going to look at an interesting and often controversial idea: universal basic income, or UBI for short. Let me ask you a question. What if the government gave everyone free money, no strings attached, no matter who you are, where you work, or how much you earn, just regular payments every month guaranteed? Does this sound too good to be true? Or maybe it sounds like a smart solution to poverty, inequality, and the future of work. In this episode, we'll explore the concept of universal basic income, discuss its goals and purpose, look at real-life experiments and trials from around the world, and examine the debate. Is UBI a brilliant idea or a dangerous one? And along the way, we'll learn lots of new English vocabulary. You can find a full transcript for this episode for free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and my website. Also, an ad-free version of this episode, both audio and video, is available on my Patreon. Click the link in the description for more information. Here is today's vocabulary list. Universal. Universal. For everyone. Shared by all people. For example, education is a universal right that everyone should have. Conditional. Conditional. Only happens if something else happens first. As in, her visa is conditional on having a job in the country. Unconditional. Unconditional. Always given, no matter what, with no rules or limits. For example, the charity gave unconditional help to anyone in need. No strings attached. No strings attached. Given freely with no hidden rules or conditions. As in, he offered to help with no strings attached, just because he wanted to. Welfare. Welfare. Money or services the government gives to people who need help. As in, she lost her job and now receives welfare to pay for food and rent. Automation. Automation. Using machines to do work instead of people. For example, automation has replaced many factory workers with robots. Trial. Trial. A test to see if something works well. For example, the company ran a 6-month trial of the new 4-day work week. Universal basic income, often shortened to UBI, is a policy idea where every single person in a country receives a regular amount of money. This money is not a loan, it's not a salary, and it doesn't depend on your job or how much you earn. It's simply given to you automatically, regularly, and unconditionally. There are a few key features of UBI. First, UBI is universal. That means it is given to everyone. Every adult citizen would receive the same amount, whether they are rich or poor, working or unemployed, living in a small city or a small village. Unlike traditional welfare systems, there is no application process or eligibility test. You don't have to prove that you are poor or in need to get it. Second, UBI is regular. The idea is that the money would be delivered on a regular schedule, perhaps every month or every week, so people could depend on it as a stable and predictable part of their income. Think of it like a basic salary from the government just for being a citizen. Third, and perhaps most importantly, UBI is unconditional. This means that there are no strings attached. You don't need to work a certain number of hours, attend a training session, or actively look for a job to qualify. The government gives you the money no matter what. This might sound similar to other forms of government support like welfare or unemployment benefits, but there's a big difference. Traditional welfare programs are conditional. They require you to prove that you are poor or unable to work, and they sometimes come with strict rules. In contrast, UBI is unconditional. You get it whether you're employed or unemployed, rich or poor, studying or retired. There are no requirements, no bureaucracy, and no judgment. So, why do people support UBI? And what is the goal or purpose behind giving everyone money? The first purpose of UBI is that it aims to reduce poverty and inequality. By giving every person a guaranteed income, it provides a basic level of support that no one can fall below. Even people with no job or unstable income would have something to rely on. It acts as a safety net, a system that helps people in difficult situations and prevents them from falling into extreme poverty. Second, UBI is often discussed in connection with automation, AI, and the future of work. As technology advances, many traditional jobs are being done by machines and artificial intelligence. Supporters of universal basic income argue that we need a new system that protects people whose jobs might disappear. I personally find this argument relatively convincing. I think in a previous Thinking in English episode, I talked about the idea of an AI or an automation tax, where companies could be taxed for replacing jobs with AI, and then that tax income being used to help fund universal basic income. Third, supporters of UBI argue that it can give individuals freedom and flexibility. With a guaranteed income, people might choose to pursue education, care for their family or children or elderly parents, or start a job, or start a business without the fear of financial failure. In other words, UBI could help people build a more meaningful livelihood. Fourth, some experts say that UBI could simplify the welfare system. In many countries, government support is extremely complicated. There are different programs for housing, food, unemployment, disability, and more, all with different requirements and different paperwork. UBI could replace some of these systems with one simple automatic payment, reduce bureaucracy, and save money on administration. However, while UBI may have good intentions, not everyone believes it is the best policy or that it would even work. The most common criticism of UBI is the cost. Giving money to every citizen every month or every week would be incredibly expensive. Critics argue that governments would need to raise taxes significantly or cut other important services like healthcare or education. It may only be possible in wealthy, small countries which already have high taxation, perhaps in Northern Europe, or in wealthy, small countries that are rich in resources, rich in oil, for example, perhaps in the Middle East. Another concern is that if people receive money without needing to work, some may choose to not work at all. This could lead to fewer people contributing to the economy, fewer people paying taxes, and a culture where work is not valuable. If everyone suddenly has more money to spend, prices might also go up, especially for basic goods like food or housing. This is called inflation. The more money there is in the system, the more money people have, the more expensive things might become. UBI also gives money to everyone. While that sounds fair, it also means that resources are not focused on those who need the help most. Traditional welfare systems often give more support to low-income or vulnerable people. With UBI, everyone gets the same, so the rich benefit too. Some argue this makes it an inefficient use of limited public money, and perhaps welfare should still be concentrated with those who need it. So now we know a little about the goals of UBI and the criticisms of the policy, I think the best thing to do would be to look at real examples. We'll look at some of the trials, the experiments, and the tests of universal basic income in the real world. I guess we should start with two places that have actually introduced unconditional cash payments to citizens as a real policy. Alaska in the USA gives all Alaskans an annual payment based on how profitable the state's oil production industry has been. Usually this is between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, but it has been more. And they have had this policy for over 40 years. I think this is similar to some people's ideas of perhaps taxing profits made by artificial intelligence, and use those profits to give back to citizens. Iran also introduced a policy kind of similar to UBI in 2019, called the Targeted Subsidies Reform Act. Basically, the government in Iran stopped or reduced subsidies in certain industries, like energy, fuel, water and food. And this meant that those things became more expensive. To compensate for these reduced subsidies, they started transferring monthly cash payments to citizens instead. It was up to the citizens to choose where they spent their money rather than the government spending the money. According to the Stanford Basic Income Lab, this payment is actually around 29% of the median household income in Iran, so it's a big chunk of money for many Iranian people. Outside of these examples, most evidence of UBI comes from trials and experiments run by academics, researchers and charities. And so I thought I would talk about 3 good examples. One in Finland, one in Kenya, and one in the USA. Finland is a good example to look at first. Finland conducted the world's first nationwide randomized trial of universal basic income. They provided 2,000 unemployed people with a monthly unconditional payment of 560 euros, or the equivalent, for 2 years. Unlike traditional benefits, this basic income came with no requirements and no obligations. The results were notable. While the increase in employment was small, it was still statistically significant, which means it was still noticeable in the data. And this challenges the idea that unconditional payments will reduce work motivation, because in Finland, people were given universal basic income and more of them started working. More importantly, the positive effects on well-being were remarkable. Recipients reported higher life satisfaction, better mental health, lower stress, and greater trust in public institutions compared to a control group, a group of people who didn't get the UBI. The experiment suggested that universal basic income could create positive feedback loops, which boost confidence, enabling people to take on training, unpaid or voluntary work, or job opportunities. One of the largest and longest running UBI experiments is taking place in rural Kenya. It is being run by Give Directly with the influence of famous economists. Starting in 2018, about 200 villages in Kenya were randomly assigned to receive cash in 3 different ways. Long-term UBI, so they would be given $22.50 per month for 12 years. Short-term UBI, they would be given $22.50 per month for 2 years only. Large lump sum, so one-time payment of $500. All 3 groups received roughly the same amount of money in the first 2 years. The idea was to see which method worked best to reduce poverty and improve lives. While the trial will last until 2030, which is when the final group will receive their final payment, they have already released some early findings. First, people involved in the trial worked just as much as before. Critics worry that UBI might make people lazy, but this didn't happen in Kenya. Instead, and interestingly, people worked differently. Less people worked in agriculture, which was the main industry before, and more people worked in self-employment and small businesses. Second, households used the money to save, invest, and earn more, especially those receiving long-term UBI or the lump sum. Third, all groups reported lower depression, with short-term UBI showing the biggest gains. The regular income provided security and peace of mind for people. Fourth, recipients ate a better diet, with short-term UBI helping most with food variety. Also, alcohol use didn't increase. This is a common fear of UBI. It is often assumed that people will waste free money. But recipients in Kenya did not drink more, and some actually reported less alcohol use in their communities. So far in the Kenyan trial, the one-time lump sum payment had the strongest impact on incomes and business creation. People used the big payment to start small enterprises and make long-term investments. The long-term UBI gave people confidence to plan and save, since they knew that more money was coming for years. The short-term UBI was less impactful overall, but still helped with food security and mental health. And this trial will be continuing into the future, so hopefully they will be able to point out more positive test results in the future. In 2019, the city of Stockton, California, launched SEED, the Stockton Economic Empowerment Demonstration. The program gave 125 residents $500 per month for 2 years. The money was unconditional, with no strings attached, and no requirement to work. The experiment was designed to investigate some key questions. Could guaranteed income reduce income volatility? Could it improve health and well-being? Could it give people more control over their lives? The results from the first year, so before the economic mess caused by COVID-19, were impressive. First, it reduced income volatility. Income volatility means that a person's income changes a lot from month to month. For example, one month you might earn $2,000, but the next month only $1,200. This makes it hard to plan, save, or pay bills on time. UBI helped families manage their unpredictable finances. Second, it helped more people find full-time jobs. This is again important evidence against the idea that free money discourages work. Third, participants were healthier, less stressed, and showed lower signs of depression and anxiety. And finally, it gave people more freedom to plan, take risks, and pursue goals. A number of the people participating found it easier to start a job, care for their family, or go back to education. According to the researchers and organisers, the results show that guaranteed income can promote dignity, stability, and opportunity. There have been many other trials of UBI around the world. The majority have taken place in the USA, but there are examples in the UK, Brazil, India, Namibia, and more. The Stanford Basic Income Lab has a useful map on their website. Just search Stanford Basic Income Lab, and you can check it out and learn more about universal basic income around the world. So, what have we learned today? Universal basic income, or UBI, is a simple but powerful idea, giving everyone regular, unconditional money, no matter their job or income. We explored the key goals of UBI: reducing poverty, preparing for automation, giving people more freedom, and simplifying welfare. And we looked at real-world examples from Finland, Kenya, and Stockton, which show promising results in mental health, employment, and financial stability. But the debate is far from settled. Supporters see UBI as a tool for justice and opportunity. Critics, one of high costs, reduced work incentives, and inefficiency. Now it is your turn to think. Do you believe UBI could work in your country? Would you feel more free if you received it? And what do you think is the fairest way to support people in today's world? I really want to know your opinion on universal basic income. I'd like you to leave a comment on YouTube if you watch on YouTube. comment on Spotify if you're listening, or if you're a Patreon subscriber, reach out to me on Patreon or Discord. In fact, please all go and subscribe to Patreon. It's a great place to meet other listeners, get access to extra episodes, and join my conversation clubs. There's a link in the description to Patreon right now. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will speak to you next time. Goodbye.